Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I know a few of us will be sort of moving our way into the room here over the next few minutes, but welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Melanie Taylor. I am the Director of Education at Eat, Breathe, Thrive, which is a nonprofit that helps people recover from and prevent eating disorders. And today we are having a conversation about how challenging the holidays can be and how we can support ourselves in getting through, whether that's difficult situations, difficult emotions, or even, I find sometimes too, the holidays can be like a lot of positive emotions. I can also find that challenging sometimes, that feels a little overwhelming. So that's what we're chatting a bit about today. And I have the pleasure of being here with Stephanie. Stephanie, would you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Stephanie A. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm a support group leader with ANAD. We're a nonprofit organization that offers free peer support to anyone dealing with eating disorders, disordered eating, or body image issues. Um, and just to remind everyone, we'll have about a half an hour of discussion followed by a half an hour yoga class. As everyone's joining, just some housekeeping guidelines. Please keep your mics turned off unless you are speaking. Feel free to use the chat if you're more comfortable. We are recording, but your video feeds and names will not be displayed in the recording. If you come on microphone and speak, that part would be hard, but you will not be seen on the video.
Mhm. Great. Um, so Stephanie, did you want to get us started off with our check-in question? And
Sure, I'll
our
do our
check-in
check-in.
question, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we've got a few group guidelines just before we do the check-in. No dumping. So if you choose to share something, we will be kind of giving feedback and support around the topic. Step in, step out. So if you're a person that doesn't talk as much, feel free to step forward. If you're someone who talks quite a bit, make sure you make space for others. No numbers. You're not permitted to talk about calories, weight, that sort of thing um, in the group. Use I statements. Sometimes when we're in a space where we have shared experiences, it's easy to want to say, well, all of us who struggle with eating disorders, make sure you're speaking to your personal experience because someone else's might be different than yours. And then please use only technical or clinical language for any eating disorder behaviors should we talk about that. But our check-in question for today, as the holidays are kind of coming up and we just kind of had Halloween, think about what is something that you are looking forward to this holiday season. Look at the chat here.
You can share in the chat box if you'd like to share there. And you're also welcome if somebody would like to share on the microphone. As we said, you will be heard on the video, but you will not be seen on the video. But if anybody wanted to share, we have time for one or two people to share. And otherwise, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat box. So Stephanie, I'm curious, what are you looking forward to around the holidays?
I have a whole slew of siblings, like 7 of them, and many of them are married and have their own children. And so while it can be just a little bit chaotic, I am super excited just to see everyone because we don't all live in the same place. And there's just so much of their lives I feel like I'm missing out on. So it's going to be great to catch up. What about you, Melanie?
Oh, I love that. 7 siblings, that's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I find just some that quietness of getting to hang out and spend time together. Most of my family is really spread out, so I don't get to see them as much. I do in 2 weeks, we're sort of going out and all meeting in one place and spending the weekend together. So that'll be really lovely. During the holidays itself, but I kind of like the quietness. We have a small group here and we'll come together and probably play a lot of games and card games and board games and laugh, lots of laughter. And that's my favorite part is just the joyful laughter.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Looks like
So you've got a
Renee.
couple people sharing, yeah, in the chat box are
Yeah.
saying that they're looking forward to seeing their family and slowing down a bit. So it's like a little blend of both of what we were saying there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great.
Fortunately, I work in education, and so there's a holiday break that is in there. That is nice too. So we
Mhm.
do get to slow down. I get to see all of the people in my family, and then I get to crawl back into my introverted shell and slow down a little bit, take a break,
Mhm.
which is always nice.
Yeah, no, I love that. Um, I would say I'm a solopreneur, so I get that time when I create it and hold space for it. And I think it's kind of taking that into the challenges is that it can also be a really busy season for me. So our anchor question today to kind of lean into the holidays as well here is what challenges are you anticipating? And for me, it's actually taking that time to pause and not getting into the bustle and hustle of the season that I think we can get so nudge towards through the marketing of the holidays, but actually taking that time and actually taking a holiday, especially recognizing that emotions can be stronger. The people that I won't get to see or miss, things like that, can be really challenging for me. So I'll invite you guys again. If somebody wants to share, feel free to come off mute and share with us. But what challenges are you anticipating? And you can put those in the chat box. And how about for you, Stephanie? What might you be anticipating that could be challenging?
A little bit of what you said too, like making sure I have small children, and there's sometimes this pressure to make their holidays magical, and all of the consumerism that maybe goes along with that. And so just making sure I'm keeping the emphasis where it is on spending time with them and being together. And then also I have some friends and family that I'm going to see that aren't in recovery yet. And so just making sure I'm extending a lot of kindness to them, and being supportive for them, because I certainly remember what it was like to be in that space. Um, and sometimes I need to remember that, and need to remember that what they need from me too. And so that's kind of a challenge I'm anticipating myself.
Mm, yeah. As you're saying that too, that sense of that sometimes being with family can be really activating, can cause reactions in me, and um, being able to care for myself in that moment. And also, part of that is like allowing myself not to get pulled into the reaction versus or even like my judgment about it or what's happened and getting angry or frustrated, and holding some space for myself to regulate, to be able to support myself, take a break when I need to take a break, step away when I need to step away, and then come back to a conversation that might be challenging when I feel a little bit more calm and peaceful. Getting the support that I might need in those conversations, that can be really important for me. Um, and again, with that sense of like the heightened emotion of the holidays itself, missing people, the pressure of it, taking a break, all the things that come around that, the meals, the engagements, all of that is really allowing myself some time to take a break and take some time for me. And then I'm able to be more peaceful and calm in those environments.
I think that makes sense. We've
Mhm.
got someone echoing in the chat the expectation of being joyful and upbeat because it is the holidays. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've got all these things coming at us, yet we're supposed to keep a certain face or a certain position, and that's certainly challenging and a lot to handle. Another comment, pressure to see family you're expected to see. So I always think about we some of my family, we have an unofficial holiday where those of us that genuinely get along a little bit better will meet unofficially and kind of celebrate. And then there's all the family you're kind of obligated to see, and that can be kind of a lot to try to fit into, to make sure everyone
Mhm.
gets feels like they get to be seen and stuff too.
Oh, absolutely. And there's such a some underlying undercurrents in those two shares there. And thank you for sharing, you guys, in the chat box. We really appreciate that. Being able to recognize that in that group of people that we're expected to see, that there can be misunderstanding, judgment. I find that sometimes people wanting the best for you or wanting you to be okay comes out when it leaves someone's mouth doesn't always sound like loving kindness, doesn't sound like care. It can sound like judgment, or misunderstanding. And so being able to, as you said, sort of have space for you to have a nice holiday. That's what I really heard. For you to have a nice holiday in a place that feels comforted and a bit more supported, and then taking those moments. And I heard you say almost like holding space for those engagements, but they don't have to be the entire time, so that you get some breaks in between that I think are really important. Um, any other challenges? You guys can go ahead and just keep sharing from that, and we can start talking about, how do we take care of ourselves during that time? What are your thoughts on that, Stephanie, about some of the ingredients we might use?
I think sometimes in recovery, the holidays feel like the final exam, right? Like you've been working on your recovery all year round. And now is the test to be around possibly everyone that has, you know, been there for your journey, positive or negative, and then also to face maybe several foods you haven't tried for a while, or situations where you found incredibly difficult. And so I think an ingredient for me for the holidays has always been just like patience with myself and patience with the situation. Um, there is no final exam, for recovery that you have to ace or come out of just having made great strides. Um, and so even if I make it through, if you make it through like one meal previously better than others, or you navigate one family conversation better than ones in the past, patience
Mm.
that you've made some progress, that it's not that you're on display to demonstrate the knowledge you've been getting from therapy or whatever. There's no shouldn't be this pressure to perform, so to speak.
Mm. Yeah, I really hear patience, and also there's some self-compassion in there of, um, allowing yourself to celebrate the wins you have had, which been such an important part for me in my own recovery. I was, as you were saying that, really reminded of that. Somebody shared in here too, the mealing or the meals and all the feelings around it during and after, right? It's not, I've always found that mealtime for me doesn't start at mealtime. It starts an hour, maybe two, even before, and can last significantly longer after that. So, thank you for sharing that. What does loving kindness mean to you? It's kind of what we sort of chatted about. So, how might we apply loving kindness? What does that mean to you? What would be your definition of that?
To me, loving kindness is extending compassion, not only to myself, but to those around me, even those that I might find difficult or challenging, because in extending that um, that loving kindness to myself and others, I open myself up for more positive interactions, more positive relationships, and just more giving myself more grace. Um,
Mm.
and for me, loving kindness is often just kind of turning towards myself and thinking about like what types of things is it that like little Stephanie needs? Like if I was a child, like what kind of things would a child need? And I would give a child whatever they needed as far in terms of emotions and things like that. And so just really turning inward and seeing what I need,
Mhm.
and giving myself those things. And I think a lot of times in eating disorders and in eating disorder recovery, mine in particular, just being so critical with myself was a huge part of my disorder, but then also a huge part of my recovery. I was not always, um, you're not making enough progress, that kind of thing. And so that criticism kind of continued, in learning to shift that towards more compassion really kind of helped propel me forward.
Mhm. Said some really important things there that sort of mirrored my own experience, the sense of self-compassion. I think if I was to look at one thing loving kindness meant to me, it's self-compassion. I would say the other thing for me is awareness, like being able to check in with myself and acknowledge what I'm experiencing, not stepping over that. If I'm upset, I'm upset, and being able to recognize that. I love how you said like what my inner child need. I always look at that as like, what part of me is hurt in this moment? Is it the child? And is there a part of me or a moment as a child that I can really recognize that's the part that I'm feeling hurt in the moment? um, and being able to acknowledge that and recognize maybe my emotion, recognize any sensations I might be feeling in my body in that moment, allowing myself to be present to those sensations throughout. So, noticing one of the things we work on at Eat, Breathe, Thrive is interoception, this ability to recognize what's happening in our body at any given moment. Um, so I can notice that sense of when anxiety shows up, it kind of starts at the um, top of my diaphragm, like right below the rib cage there. I'll get like a little bit of a knot starting to show up. Good 10, 15 minutes before I can feel the pressure in my chest. And so when I recognize that as the early signs of anxiety for me is recognizing, so that awareness allows me to bring self-compassion, that I might need to take a break, take a walk, and excuse myself to the bathroom is like my favorite go-to. It's just, I've got a buddy that I can reach out to in those moments where I really just need to like engage that self-compassion. If I don't have it, if I can't find it, I know I can reach out to that buddy and say, like, I'm having a moment and I just need that support for self-compassion. And so that those two together, that sense of like listening into my experience and then that self-compassion, that in that moment I'm coping with something and there's a part of me that's having a challenging moment, whether that's emotion, experience, memories, all of that, and that I'm worthy of that self-compassion, which I think has been my biggest challenge, is the I'm worthy of the self-compassion I'm worthy of, has been probably the most important statement of my own recovery. Mhm.
I would completely agree with everything you said. I like what you're talking about like tuning into your experience and what it is that is going on with you. Um, I think the thing that has helped me figure that out the most is I've started reading the room at holidays and seeing how I think maybe other folks are feeling, and then noticing, am I feeling that way too? Like if I see people starting to nod off, or like children are great barometers at a holiday for how are going. Like if it is time to eat, the children will let you know that it is time to eat. If the event has gone on too long and there's too much stimulation, the children will be the ones to tell you. And so sometimes if there's just so much going on that I can't gauge what I'm feeling or what's going on, I start looking around the room and see, how are other folks feeling, especially the children, because they're usually the ones that don't have all the filters, or maybe aren't feeling those expectations of how to act at the holidays, and they'll let you know kind of what's going on. And then I have to turn to myself and go, okay, am I feeling that too? um and then it allows me to kind of extend some grace to them, but then also to myself, because if I'm checking in, I realize, hey, I feel that way too. Like this has been a long day.
Yeah. Somebody just put in the chat, I never thought about how I am to myself. I notice I'm judgmental of myself. I like the I'm worthy of when learning how to lean into self-compassion. I'm glad that's helped you. And I, the sense of, yeah, like, we so often, especially about, um, there's a lot of thought of how we are with other people and that interaction, and considering how are we going to be when that person that's in our life might say that thing they've said before or act in the way they've acted before. Um, and yet I find I always prepare myself for that, and I don't always take time to go, okay, what is I'm going to do? And I think that's something that's happened over the last probably 6 months to a year. I'm like, how am I going to care for myself in that moment? How do I want to be with myself in that moment? Um, and it's challenging because our mind, I don't know about you, Stephanie, but that little voice in my mind, we call that monkey mind here at Eat, Breathe, Thrive. The ones that's like jumping around with thoughts to thoughts to thoughts. I don't think I've ever heard that monkey be pleasant and kind and loving and tell me how worthy I am. It's been a lot more of I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, not lovable. You should know better. You'll never get there. Like all those types of words that are happening with monkey mind. And so I think it really takes something to apply this sense of loving kindness, to ourselves and to others. most of the time I find to do that, I have to say, oh, there's a thought and think nothing of it. To allow that to go, there's monkey mind. All right, go play in the go play in the jungle, leave me alone, and come back to caring for myself in that moment. How about for you? Do you find that the thoughts are, I think this is about recovery, right? The thoughts ever actually go away. I think they're human thoughts. I don't know that they're eating disorder thoughts. So there's definitely eating disorder thoughts there, but this little monkey up there, I don't know that that's I've never met anybody who doesn't have that.
Did I disappear there for a moment?
You did for a moment. Welcome back.
I apologize. I'm not sure
No,
what happened. All of a sudden it was
that's
blank.
no worries. I'm glad that you're back. So we were chatting there a little bit about, to make sure you heard me, we were talking a little bit about those monkey mind thoughts. And I know that I
Yes,
have some
yes.
monkey mind thoughts that in recovery for the ED, and then I've got, I think, human monkey mind thoughts. So that little nasty monkey in my mind. How about for
No,
you?
I completely I I usually call that my like my stinking thinking, like my brain is stinky. And usually if my brain is super stinky, like it's just not firing off good thoughts and everything, like many times I either need like a nap or like my kids at school have like a reset, like I need like a reset and kind of
Mm,
doing what you were talking about where you are like noticing, okay, there's a thought and like I'm just going to let it pass and move forward, and just kind of see what other thoughts move forward and come into the picture for sure.
mhm. I love that stinking thinking. It's really great. Yeah, I think what you said there, that sense of like recognizing it, but also how can I care for myself in that moment? How can I bring self-compassion in that moment? And I think there's a theme here of like I give myself permission to take a break when I need it, to care for myself when I need it. Um, and and I think that truly is self-compassion, the sense of like truly loving myself enough to be kind to me. Um, yeah. So I'm curious to hear from the group a bit. And again, if you'd like to share, you can. You will not be on the recording. Your voice would be if you came off mute, or you can share in the chat box. I'm curious to know from you, what three ingredients do you need to extend yourself and others loving kindness? And I might even also add to that, to receive loving kindness from others. So what three ingredients do you need? We've talked a bit about awareness and self-compassion and patience and forgiveness, but what would it be for you? What three ingredients do you want to extend and receive loving kindness for yourself or others this holiday season? And so, Stephanie, are there three specific for you? I think you've talked a bit about, that self-compassion. Is there anything in particular, if you were to pick three for yourself, what they would be?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, Definitely the self-compassion to be able to receive the loving kindness. Also, I would say rest, just to be kind of in a clear state of mind to recognize the things that I'm worthy and that kind of thing too. Not to have the day have worn on and taken against me. So I think thinking about loving kindness, like first thing in the morning or when I've had a good night's sleep, is definitely
Mhm.
going to be a better time for me to receive that message versus the end of the day where I've started to evaluate my day and myself in my day. Starting out with that, I think would be really helpful after I'm well rested. Um, and to be honest, I think I need to be nourished. Like to be nourished for the day is going to make sure that I'm also able to be in a headspace where I can receive that message too. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Trying to change over to mics for yoga practice. Um, what you were pointing out there, I think, is really such an important ingredient, that I've cared for myself. So you pointed out two things, like that sense of nourishing, and that resting. I think they're both really combined, right? The sense of giving myself what I need for me to have full access to all my capacities, to have access to my strength, to remember and have compassion. I think I have way more compassion for myself when I've had enough sleep, and not just sleep as rest. I find, um, over the last couple of years, I've had to really challenge what rest is for me, and like resting my eyes from technology and lights. We're
For
so
sure.
virtual these days. Resting from intellectual stuff, like doing a lot of thinking and things like that. Emotional rest, having a time where I can put down things and I don't have to address everything right now. I can give myself a break. I think all of those are really important in those. So yeah, I really love it you threw it out there. So I'm going to add that to mine. I think the sense of like nourishment, to me, that's like, that includes food nourishment, it includes rest, it includes having moments I really enjoy, and like filling myself with community that I want to be around, time for myself, space, all of those things, that sense of nourishing myself in all ways. And to do that for me, I definitely need that sense of awareness and self-compassion. We're hearing somebody in the chat box saying movement. Speaking of that, I'm going to let you sort of speak to that, Stephanie. I'm going to get moved over to our mat so we move
Sure.
into our
Okay.
yoga practice. So you guys will see me move from one camera to the other here in a moment.
I think that's great. That movement that really speaks to becoming like embodied in our body. Sometimes I think with eating disorders, at least for myself, I can become very disembodied and living in my head and not being connected to my arms, my legs, my skin, other pieces of myself. And so movement can really bring that connection to all the pieces of my body and help me at least appreciate all that my body can do for me and does do for me every day. Um, Helping me, and that really helps me just to kind of extend that kindness to myself. So I imagine the person that put that in the chat, kind of the same thing, like feeling that appreciation for all that your body can do and how you can move, and it kind of helps get your blood flowing too, like thinking about like being in a clear headspace or in a space where you can receive loving kindness, getting that oxygen to your brain, getting things moving will kind of put you in a better state to be clear thinking. Sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Understand that.
Yeah, I love that you said this sense that, when I was hearing that too, sometimes movement helps me move energy or emotion out. Don't necessarily have to
Mhm.
like dive into the weeds of the emotion. So I think about like cleaning for me often happens when I need to move some energy or some
Yes.
emotion.
Yes.
Being able to allow movement to be helpful in that way, but also the sense of supporting loving movement, where we can acknowledge that our body is allowing us to make that movement, to um, kind of get out of the thoughts and emotions, but into our body's experience about that, which is actually where we're headed here. So I'm going to get shifted over. If all of you would like to join me on your yoga mat, again, a reminder, you will not be on camera. And I, as a yoga teacher, I can tell you that it really helps me to be able to see. So if you do feel comfortable being on camera, only I and Stephanie will see you. You will not be on the recording, and it'll help me with cueing. But I'm going to move over to my mat. And Stephanie, if you want to join us as well, you can join us from your chair if you'd like
Sure.
to, or if you want to
Perfect.
move to a space here as well. And I'm going to be moving over like a few feet this way. You'll see the shift here happening for spotlight. All right. Can you still hear me okay, Stephanie?
Yes.
Great. So what I'd like to do is kind of bring that loving kindness and some of the things we chatted about for ingredients. And so if you come up with an ingredient, you think about something for yourself, whether you shared it or not, I invite you to bring that ingredient to your mat in this moment. So if you're in your chair, if you want to be on a yoga mat, or just sitting on a floor is fine. So I'm going to find a comfortable seat. And loving kindness for me reminds me that sometimes it's uncomfortable to have my pelvis right on the mat. So I'm going to bring a blanket underneath me here. Oh, that feels so much better already. And so, sort of listening in and caring for my body as I get seated. So, think about that comfortable seat. It's what asana, comfortable seat, is what, when we're practicing yoga, it's what it's asking us for, is to find a comfortable seat in the pose. So, wherever you are, getting comfortable, maybe that's leaning back against the back of the chair or a wall. Maybe like me, it's putting something under your pelvis or changing your leg position. And let's start just by noticing our breath. I love checking in with my breath, especially when I'm feeling really challenged. My breath can tell me so much about how I feel, even when maybe I don't have access to what emotion or what has me feeling a certain way. But my breath can really tell me if it's really shallow or feeling really heightened in the top of my chest. It can remind me that I'm having an experience, even when I don't know what it is. So let's just notice where your breathing is. Maybe you're noticing it from where you're noticing it outside. Maybe you're noticing where you feel your nose, air moving through your nose, even outside on the lips. Maybe you're noticing it as a part of your body is moving. And just checking in. Does it feel shallow, constricted, free flowing, comfortable? How would you describe your breath in this moment for yourself? And no matter what you find, just allowing that to be okay. And there's nothing to fix or solve about your breath. It's simply indicating how your breath is in this moment. You might even notice the parts of your body that are seated, that are supported by the floor. If you're laying down, maybe it's by how your back is supported and your feet are supported. I can always find too that even rolling around a little bit on my sits bones can help me to kind of get really present to the surface I'm sitting on. Hmm. And just noticing gravity is holding you where you are. This is so big for me when I have that sense of anxiety showing up, is allowing myself to recognize I'm not floating. I actually am grounded. Even if I don't feel grounded emotionally, I can notice I'm physically grounded in my space. So if it feels comfortable, let's bring our hands in front of the body here, or heart center, if that's in um, whatever that feels like for you, just in front of you. And moving with your own breath, let's take an inhale, reaching the arms up overhead. Exhale, let the arms open up out to the side and back to heart center. So sort of playing with that movement. And what I'm going to invite you to do is move only with your own breath. So inhaling up, see if you can extend that inhale to come all the way to the top. And the same thing with the exhale, as though you're planning the movement to match the breath. So as slow or as fast as the breathing is, moving with your breath as you move. It's a little challenging, I always find, to like really work at the pace of my breath here. So it's okay if that's your mind might want you to be moving quicker. I'm just allowing some self-compassion here and finding that flow of moving with your breath. I'll do one more and then holding the hands there at heart center. Let's place one hand down beside you. So if you're by a floor, you can lean there, or you might even want to bring a prop in to support, depending on how you're feeling. I need a little shorter prop there. There we go. And then if you're sitting on a chair, you might even just pop it to the side of the chair itself. So bringing one hand down towards the chair, and let's reach the other arm up nice and tall, up into the air there. And take a nice deep inhale in, reach that hand towards the ceiling. As you exhale, same thing, nice and slow with your breath, just fold to one side. So I'm folding into the hand that's down. And then breathe into that rib cage on the side of the body. as though your breath is what's going to allow you to get a good stretch here. Just whatever feels good. Take a nice deep inhale, bring the hand back up top. As you exhale, reach that hand across the opposite knee. So you're sort of twisting a little bit, reaching forward. And then inhaling back up. Exhale, and let's switch arms as we exhale. I'm going to bring my prop to the other side here. So opposite arm up and down. Take a nice deep inhale, reach that arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale to the side. Take a nice full breath cycle, breathing into the side of the body. You can inhale up. Exhale, you're going to reach across the opposite knee, a little bit of a twist here. And inhaling back up, bring both hands down. So if you're seated in your chair, you can do this. We'll do it a little differently. I'm going to do a low lunge here. And if you're in your chair, you can do that by even just pulling the knee up towards you. And you're going to press, sort of like you're pressing the leg away while you're pulling in with your hands. So you're getting a little bit of resistance within the body. And if you'd like to join me in low lunge, I'm going to bring my blanket underneath my knees. I have self-compassion for my knees. And then bringing my other foot forward. There we go. So just kind of doing a check-in first before you even get into the pose. I always think about this, like, how much sensation do I want to feel in my body in this moment? And not from judgment, but from self-compassion. So not from the picture of the pose, but how I feel in the pose. So that listening in I was talking about, listening into my own experience. So I'm going to just come a little bit forward, being up nice and tall. If you want, you can bring a prop, a block, or even you could do this in front of a wall to support you. I find that my monkey mind wants this leg much further back than it is. And it's really early in the morning for me here. It's about 9 o'clock here. I'm in mountain time. And so this is the first time I'm waking these muscles up this morning. So I'm going to be really gentle here and just give them a nice early morning stretch. So again, if you're seated in your chair, lifting that knee up, pressing the leg away from your hands as though your hands are pulling in and your legs are resisting at the same time. I'm going to take a little counter pose. I'm going to reach my pelvis back. If you're seated, you could drop the leg and take a moment to breathe. And then let's come back in for 3 more breaths here. See if you're breathing, if you can notice where the breath goes in the body. Where do you feel your breathing occurring? When you feel ready, we're going to shift back a bit. I'm going to bring one leg back and the other one forward. Again, if you're in your chair, take a moment and drop that other leg. Just take a moment in between before lifting up your opposing leg. So again, I'm going to listen to this side completely newly. Not going to expect it to feel the same as the other side or the other leg. They're completely different muscles here. So I'm just going to notice here, I want to be a little bit further forward. I'm not getting quite the same sensation that I want to feel. And again, I'm just waking these muscles up. So if you're with me in an early morning, just giving that early loving kindness stretch into these muscles. Coming right to my breathing, inhaling and exhaling. And just noticing where my breathing goes. I find myself wanting to exhale with my mouth open today. It can be a really good cooling technique. If you find yourself really heated or have a lot of energy in the body, I find it's really helpful for my anxiety to really blow that air out intentfully, like I'm blowing out a lot of candles. Now lean back, take that counter pose. So if you're seated, just letting the foot drop to the floor. And then coming back in, we'll do 3 more breaths here. And coming to bring my legs back, I'm going to move into a tabletop. So if you're seated, you can do this. We're going to do some cat-cow. So you can do some seated cat-cow as well. So seated cat-cow would look more like just opening the shoulders, slightly looking up, but really listening to the neck as you do that. And then as you roll forward, you can bring your hands forward a bit. You can palm them back and forth, can really help you to get into this beautiful spine stretch. And if you are on the mat, just taking a moment to notice your wrists below your elbows, below your shoulders, and your knees below the hips. And we're going to do this with our breathing, the same as we did that first movement. So inhaling, just really gently and moving into your cat or your cow pose. Exhaling, curling up. And again, it's early morning for my spine. It's the first little stretch it's getting. So I'm really being loving here, listening in, not trying to get to a certain part of the pose, but listening to my spine. I find myself wanting to move around a little bit today. It's like, oh, we're waking up the spine here. So feel free to add any additional movement you might want here, maybe some barrel rolls or some side to side. So taking 2 to 3 more of your cat cows, whether you're seated or on your mat. And then coming back to a seated position when you feel ready. And we're going to finish today with a bit of a meditation. So we'll doing that in a seated position. Before I do that, I was thinking about meditation is really challenging. So first thing is, obviously there's that cue of like, clear your mind. And that is such a dishonoring cue because our mind is never clear. There's always thoughts and things going on in our mind. And so it's actually how our mind is designed. So I think about is sort of preparing myself to not have to engage with the thoughts in my mind, that I might notice them like I notice a butterfly in a field. I might just notice it. I don't need to run over and like capture the butterfly or try to get it to go in a certain direction. I can just notice it's there and sit in stillness. So as you come to that stillness, maybe just doing like, I find like doing a little bit of circles, a little bit of movement here, and just listening in for any little bits of tension that you might notice in the pelvis and the spine that still needs a bit of love so that you can feel comfortable sitting in that meditative practice physically. I always think of it's like, how many things do I want to challenge myself with in meditation? Being with my thoughts and emotions is enough. I want to like care for my physical body so it doesn't feel tense here. That's better. Just releasing a little bit of stuff in my right glute muscles, feeling a little tense there. So just taking that time for kindness for myself before I move into sitting in stillness. And then also recognizing that that is not like the goal. It's being comfortable to sit in stillness with your thoughts and not having to interact with them or make them better or get into the weeds with them. And if I need to move my body to do that, then I'll move my body to do that. Maybe a walking meditation is better than a stillness seated meditation for you. It's just letting yourself be with yourself as you are. So if it feels comfortable to sit, maybe for you, it's Maybe you want to walk around your space as we do this and know that's okay as well. If it feels okay to close or soften your gaze, I invite you to do that. And we're going to do a meditation that's called the loving kindness meditation. And so, as we do that, remembering that you can feel that sense of grounding, noticing your hip bones on the mat or your chair, that you're supported. Maybe even notice that sense of gravity, knowing that you can discontinue the meditation at any time if it becomes unhelpful, discomforting. Pause, take a nice full deep breath in and out through the mouth. And then with your eyes closed or just softening the gaze, whatever feels most comfortable for you, I want you to bring to mind or to notice with your mind's eye everything in front of you. Perhaps you notice that in front of you, in the world and in the universe, there are infinite beings. And those infinite beings, of human beings, have their own challenges. They experience suffering. And for you to give them a loving kindness wish that they have courage and compassion, patience and strength to be with all of the challenges in their lives. And then bringing your attention, we're going to go around in a clockwise way, so towards the right. So maybe about 1:30 towards the right, about halfway to 3 o'clock. And noticing that in that direction, there are infinite beings that are human and experience their own challenges and suffering. And then send them your loving kindness wish that they have courage and patience, compassion and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And moving to the right, noticing that to the right of you, there are infinite human beings facing their own challenges and suffering, and sending your loving kindness wish to them that they have the courage and patience, compassion and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And then coming about halfway to the right, so sort of southeast, noticing that in that direction are infinite beings facing their own challenges and suffering, and wishing for them to have courage, forgiveness, compassion, and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And moving to south of you, directionally behind you, noticing that there are infinite beings facing their own challenges and suffering, and sending them your loving kindness wish that they have courage, patience, compassion, and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And then that southwest direction, noticing in that direction that there are infinite beings in infinite space facing their own challenges and suffering, May they have courage, forgiveness, compassion, and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And noticing to the west of you, to the left side of you, that there are infinite beings, human beings facing their own challenges and suffering. Sending your loving kindness wish that they have the courage, patience, compassion, and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And then northwest, noticing that to that direction there are infinite beings in infinite space facing their own challenges and suffering. May they have courage and patience, compassion, and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. You might even notice directly below you that there is infinite space with infinite beings that face their own challenges and suffering. May they have courage and patience, compassion and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And directionally above you, that there is infinite space with infinite beings facing their own challenges and suffering. May they have courage and patience, compassion and strength to face all of the challenges in their lives. And then coming within, coming towards you, noticing that you as a human being face human experiences that are challenging. We face our own suffering. And sending yourself this loving kindness wish, may you have courage and patience. May you have self-compassion and strength to face all of the challenges in your life. And then gently bringing your awareness back to your breath. Again, just noticing where your breathing is in this moment, how you are embodying or sensing your breath in your body in this moment, without it trying to look a certain way or be a certain way, but more of a witness of where is my breathing right now in my body. Can invite some gentle movement in fingers and toes, or even I always like coming out with a little bit of circles and just breathing into my body as it moves gently, awakening my spine from the stillness. Remembering to go in both directions as you invite yourself back into being in this physical space of our body. Might even want to stretch here, reaching and pulling with the hands as you move. Just being a little playful. Thinking of Stephanie finding the play and joy that she wants to have as the child in these moments, and just letting yourself be that kid in your body for a moment. Not making the movement look a certain way or feel a certain way. Mm. Thank you for practicing with us. I'm going to move back to my other computer. Stephanie, if maybe you want to share a little bit about how Anad can support you through the holidays.
Sure. Thank you very much. So as the holidays come up, if you face any challenges and things like that, I encourage you to visit the ANAD website. I believe we're offering some pop-up holiday support groups as well as our regular support groups. And all that information should be able to be found on our website as well. And we've got affinity groups for specific groups that maybe you identify with, but then we also have general support groups too. So feel free to kind of check that out.
Lovely. I hear from so many people the benefits that they get from the groups at ANAD and just being able to be in community. I think that's such an important part. Like you all come today to join us in a community moment together, sort of being together in a space. And so I love that. Um, and here at Eat, Breathe, Thrive, and I will say you will get in your email after the session, you'll get some information about both organizations and how you can join. So no need to try to like capture anything in this moment. But here at Eat, Breathe, Thrive, we have a couple different things that can be really supportive. Our yoga for recovery, for eating disorder recovery course, which is a 4-week course that helps you just really support you through some of the things we talked about, like interoception, like connecting in with the body, and how challenging that can be to listen to certain sensations in our body. So it can really help with that. We also have our virtual campfire. This is probably one of my favorite community events where we have a conversation menu and we just talk about real human experiences and enjoying those together, again, in that community space, and many other programs that you can join sort of help you, sense of like how yoga can help you through recovery between the two. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy and join with one of us in the near future to support you through this time. Stephanie, is there anything that, even just through the practice today or through our conversation, any sort of last thoughts for you that you wanted to share?
I think as things come up for you, if you're struggling to extend maybe loving kindness to other family members or to people in your life, just to remember to come back into yourself, and extend that to you first. If you're struggling to give that to others and the folks that you may be around, to bring it back into yourself first, before you can really give that out to others.
I love that. It's like filling your own cup, that nourishing, caring for yourself. It's so wonderful. I would say for me that you are worthy and that recovery is possible. And so, in those challenging moments where that's the last thing that my mind wanted me to recognize, is that I'm worthy of support, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of self compassion, and that I will get there. In all those challenging moments, I will get there. And all there is to do in this moment is care for myself appropriately, allow myself to be supported by others that are helpful, and know that I will get there. And I think Chelsea, our executive director, always says that too. Like when we don't have that hope in us, is being with people that do, being around people that have hope and can hold that space of hope for recovery, because it is possible. So if you've got any sort of last minutes for you of anything that you'd like to share, feel free to put that into the chat box. Logistically, you'll get an email from us with, as I said, some information. The recording for this will go on our YouTube channel within the next couple of days. So I'll give you the link to that in the email as well for this one, as well as other ones. So maybe that loving compassion you give to yourself is you're going to jump back in and listen to one of these conversations or do a yoga practice with us. So to give yourself that time out, that can be so helpful. And we're seeing here, thank you so much for this chat, Melanie and Stephanie. Thank you for being here and being with us and sharing of yourselves as well. You are so welcome.